Everybody, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Hey there. Hi there. Michelle here with AAM. We're gonna take a moment and wait just a couple of moments here.
Everybody, welcome
And oops, sorry about that. Yep, good to have you all here. If you're joining us, please say hi in the chat and let us know if you're familiar with AAM. Let us know. Let us know where you might be checking in from today. We're just really glad for all of you. And in just a moment, we're gonna get started with our live stream workshop today with Ben. So hey everyone. Hey. You're with us. All right, let's get started. Here we go. Welcome, Animal Allies. Welcome Canada. In this beginner-friendly presentation, AAM mentor Benjamin or Basil B Vegan will do a step-by-step walkthrough on how he creates animal rights content for different platforms and purposes using the free version of ChatGPT. Benjamin will showcase a few examples of using the unpaid version of ChatGPT to overcome creative's block, save time, and increase your impact on the animals. He will also discuss the ethical considerations of AI and a few responsible use guidelines. But first, my name is Michelle Granberg. I'm a mentoring team member with Animal Activism Mentorship. For those of you who are new to Animal Activism Mentorship, AAM is a multinational program designed to fully support and empower activists to reach their full potential and equip them with the tools, community, and resources they need to boldly participate in our global animal liberation movement. Founded in 2020, AAM offers a free 3-month mentorship program which pairs experienced activists with aspiring activists. You can apply today to become a mentor or mentee through our website, animalactivismmentorship.com. Additionally, we offer free educational online programs like this one. We have a podcast called the Animal Liberation Hour, and we host large-scale in-person activism events around the country, like our Ohio Occurrence, 4 days of activism on August 1st through 4th, and in and around Columbus, and the Austin Convergence, 11 days of activism, October 11th through 21st in Texas. And we'll throw those links in the chat. All right, so thank you all who is joining us tonight, and we will take your questions after the presentation, perhaps throughout as well. Keep your comments kind and respectful and generally on topic. And now I'm pleased to introduce AAM mentor, YouTuber, and activist Benjamin or Basil B Vegan. Go ahead, Ben, take it away.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, AAM, for having me. Welcome, everybody. So glad to be here and glad to have you here. All right, so let's get started. Brief introduction about me. So I've been vegan 9.5 years and an activist for over 6 years. So much so because of animal activism mentorship. So I was a mentee to begin with, and then I became a mentor. I've recently, in the last year, been a YouTuber, organizer, and then most of my experiences with grassroots activism, and then also more recently moving into being a vegan public speaker and author. And I think, like many of us, feel like we want to do more activism for the animals. Personally, I've struggled with just difficulty focusing, motivation, and anxiety and socializing. So things just like social anxiety, low self-esteem, lack of confidence in myself, and all these things potentially could hinder me from doing more activism. So very briefly, what is generative AI? So there's different types of artificial intelligence. So generative AI is the kind that ChatGPT falls under, and ChatGPT is just one brand, one company of generative AI. So that's a type of artificial intelligence that uses what they call large language models to process the human language and then generate or create new content based on those inputs, such as text, images, videos, and more. So why do we have to use AI? Because we have a moral obligation to end animal exploitation. I don't think I need to refresh anybody on this webinar the condition that billions and trillions of animals are facing, and just the fact that we exploit animals at all. So, and then also the animal abusers are using AI. So we know how cunning and conniving these animal agriculture and other animal exploitative industries are. So they're using AI. They're just going to become even more so. And then we can use AI to support other activists. And additionally, we can free up time for ourselves, creating more time for rest, be that self-care or just to do other activism or other activities. And then it's also, like I mentioned before, it's an assistive tool for people who face barriers and challenges in creating content. So some potential risks and implications of using AI. So we know that there's bias and discrimination because the AI, these models are trained off of the existing language, and we already know, for example, things like kill two birds with one stone, or even people, we use the words, and we use an animal to be synonymous with someone who has no rights or no moral consideration. So there's already so much speciesism and species bias in the language. So these models are trained on that. So that's one implication that we have to just be aware of. Privacy concerns. So if whatever we are typing in to the ChatGPT, then there's concerns about how private that is and how that information can be used against us. Then there's job displacement. So the idea that professional journalists and artists and creatives, you name it, they're facing job displacement because of AI. So privacy concerns, talk a little bit about the security and the misuse, the climate impact. So I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the huge energy suckers, or how much resources go into generative AI. So just like the computational powers and all these whatchamacallit, server banks and stuff like that. So just something to be aware of. And then also specifically, well, ChatGPT and these company corporations, they have a lot of ties to militaries and state sponsored violence and stuff like that. So we have to, just another thing to be aware of when we're using these corporate companies and AI. So I just wanted to say that, but we can't escape it. The internet is a tool of the military. It was started, it's called ARPANET when it started. And here's just a couple books I threw up there if anybody is interested in diving deeper into the militarized origins of the internet, Surveillance Valley, and the age of surveillance capitalism. But again, that we can't let that stop us. And obviously, just because we use the internet and these tools doesn't mean that we subscribe to the whole thing. So just some caveats and ideas to use generative, we call generative AI responsibly. So the idea is using it as a starting place. So you're still the activist and the AI is assisting you. So we're really thinking about it as an assistant, a tool to help assist already your creative mind, your motivations, your why, that kind of thing. And then rewriting and editing your responses in your unique voice. So that way you can give your own, add your own personality, your own spin on it, um, what have you. And the idea is like disclosing that whatever content you created with AI was used, like letting people know when they're interfacing or reading content that's been generated by AI. So there's like that level of just honesty and transparency. And then accurate information and other biases. So again, especially when you're doing things, when you're trying to write like a persuasive article, for example, or you're trying to cite facts and resources, you definitely want to double check that because I think get into it in the next slide here, but already we can be scrutinized as activists because we're bringing an unpopular truth. So we don't want to give the naysayers any additional reasons for us to try and point our finger to try and discredit us or anything like that. So we really want to make sure we check our facts. So some assisted uses for using ChatGPT: articles and blogs. Well, first off, let me just pause right here. Go ahead and comment in the chat if you either A, want to be doing more activism, or B, what type of activism that you want to be doing, and then any kind of hangups or barriers or challenges that you feel like it might be keeping you from doing more activism or being more prolific on creating more activism content. And we can read back some things in the chat and just know that it's something that a lot of us are struggling with. So, for example, articles and blogs, letters and press releases, social media. So that could be social media content, but it could also be responding to comments, writing grants, agendas and task lists, and just one point I would like kind of drive home is just getting ideas and overcoming writer's block or creator's block. So the Faunalytics, and I'm going to reference them later, but they're really, really cool animal rights organization that uses stats and data to kind of analyze what's effective within the animal rights movement. And I'm just quoting one part of the summary of this impact of diet and different animal advocacy tactics. It was a study they did in 2022, but looking at different forms of activism. And actually, social media posts and news articles are very, very effective. So I know one thing that we pride ourselves on at Animal Activism Mentorship is exposing activists to the wide variety of different forms of actions that you can take. And not everybody, some people love to be out on the street and doing disruptions, but some people love to do, there's so many different ways to get involved. So I just want to emphasize that it really is important to be writing articles and doing social media for the animals. Okay, prompt engineering. So this is kind of one of the main parts of this whole thing. And that's the idea of structuring because generative AI is taking our input to create the content, to give us responses. So prompt engineering is how you structure your input that can be interpreted by generative AI. And that's where I really encourage people to get creative, kind of let loose and just get started and see what happens. So I had to throw a cat meme in there, but the moment when you have to admit writer's block is real. And it is really true for people that are artists or creatives. A lot of sometimes the hardest part is just, staring at that blank canvas or that blank page and just getting started. And that's where I really feel like ChatGPT can really help us to just get started or get ideas. So for example, if anyone has ChatGPT pulled up and they want to throw some of these prompts in there and then throw in the chat what they get back. But for example, how would you explain cognitive dissonance to a child? Ways in which meat eaters avoid the discomfort of reconciling their dietary choices with their ethical beliefs. And I'm of the opinion that most people are intrinsically vegan. The idea that most people care about the well-being of animals is just, carnism or this cultural conditioning that has us obscure so many animals and exploit them and objectify them. So that's why I like to make content that kind of speak to that inner vegan that's trapped in so many people. And again, this is just getting ideas, not for this particular platform or type form of media, but just to get ideas, get the creative juices flowing. Write a letter to my congressperson asking them to support a plant-based food system in schools. So a lot of times there's different legislation going on. There might be one even locally happening near you, and you could just write a letter. A lot of times there's form letters that you can, fast action network style, where you can just copy and paste. But this is just one way to get creative. Write a list of what makes a social media post compelling. So again, just generating ideas to help get you started. All right, and then don't be afraid to be specific. Here's an example that I got really specific. Write me a short monologue about how animal rights is the most important issue because all forms of exploitation, including human exploitation and genocide, are predicated on the normalization and justification of exploiting others. So that you could get, like, don't be afraid to just play around, because again, it's the free version, and I've never tapped out when it comes to like how many inputs it's let me do. So just go, just like, I just really encourage you to get started. Here's another example. Be specific. How can I put together a 20-minute, and then a lot of times if you put in specific numbers, like write me a script for a 3-minute video or 20-minute slide presentation, it will really come back scene by scene or frame by frame with the breakdown for you. So that can be really helpful. So how can I put together a 20-minute slide presentation for non-vegan audiences to help them understand that they are most likely already vegan, and it is only cognitive dissonance that stands in their way of being vegan? And look, right there, it's pretty specific on a couple of different aspects. And then that's just a really good starting point for anybody that wants to be a public speaker or put together a slideshow or anything of that nature. So for my YouTube channel, for example, write me a list of titles for vegan YouTube videos about the cognitive dissonance of eating animals that will really bait non-vegans and anti-vegan trolls into watching. Because sometimes I get gratification for when you know that when we have trolls commenting on our videos, that we know that we've hit a nerve with them. So sometimes to me that's a metric of like success if my videos are. And then also because I love making content for vegans, but I also want to make content for non-vegans to help them make that connection. So that's just one example of how I was able to generate ideas. So here's just a couple that it came back with. But yeah, again, if you want to go ahead and throw something like this, a prompt in your ChatGPT, if you have it open right now, and share some of what comes back. But are you eating lies? Exploring the mental battle of carnivores. Meat on the mind, confronting the ethics we ignore. From denial to reality, the mental struggle of meat lovers. So I thought those were pretty good titles, actually. And sometimes I have just copy and pasted one of their suggestions. But then again, like I said, you can always tweak it relative to like your own keyword search or your audience or whatever. But so here we go. Okay, write me a script for a short YouTube video that stresses the immorality and abuse of ducks for foie gras. So that's another example of being specific and helping me get ideas and overcome creator's block. So those two, so here's the thumbnails of my actual YouTube videos. Those ones didn't do so well, but I did one about horse meat. And look, it got 2,600 views. And you can imagine, and imagine that even if just a small percentage of people click on the video and then they see Dominion or Earthlings in the link in my description box, or they just watch it, they might have an aha moment. Again, is these incremental exposure to like non-vegans is to help them make the connection. So I thought that was really cool. And imagine if every vegan or every activist just create a little YouTube channel. And again, that's just the idea of like, cumulative effects over time. So here's so this was one I did one about bees and why honey isn't vegan. And then this is an actual comment. No one cares about invertebrates, not talking from opinion, but from the point of view of the normie. So I encourage you, when you can actually put content into your prompts. So this is what I do. I'll say something like, reply to the following comment from the perspective of an unapologetic animal liberation activist. And then I go ahead and red, you can see I repasted the actual prompt. So you can use content. I'll do things like that, like, address the following blah, 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 or, in reference to the following sentences or paragraphs, come up with this type of response. And you can just copy and paste it in there. So it was actually a pretty good response, but here's a portion of it. But just because invertebrates are less visible or familiar to us doesn't mean they don't experience pain or deserve consideration. So I thought that was a pretty good post. And again, it's kind of one of those things where if just by responding to comments on YouTube, it could help our algorithm. And if it's just a troll, we don't necessarily care. It doesn't have to be the perfect response. And some of us are too busy to necessarily go through all of our social media channels and respond like very thoughtfully or write an original comment or reply to every single person. So this is just a good way you can kind of just, again, help save yourself some time. Okay, so I started a meetup. So in the last couple of years, I got into software development, and then tech meetups or networking are a big part of the industry. And I was tired of going to these meetups and people consuming animal secretions and stuff. So I was like, I have to start my own vegan tech meetup. So I was like, how do I get started? How do I even get started? Okay. But I'm thinking, obviously, I wanted to do it in person. So I was like, I need a place to meet. So draft me a letter to send to vegan restaurants, ask if I could use their space to hold monthly meetups for vegan tech professionals to network on topics at the intersection of animal rights and technology. So um, I ended up actually collaborating with another amazing activist, and she had a space for me. So I didn't need that. But then here, when I had my first meetup, I create a concise meeting agenda for preliminary vegan tech professionals meetup. Again, I'm fairly new to organizing, and I'm new to the tech industry, and I've never been a meetup organizer before. And of course, I want all my attendees to have a really good time. So again, here's just a little sample of what came back. Like welcoming and networking, 20 minutes, introduction to the vegan tech community. And again, and then it had subpoints under these. I'm just showing you a little bit to give you an example, but interactive discussion, 30 minutes, upcoming events and projects, closing remarks, and next steps. So again, I thought that was pretty cool. That it just again helped get the creative juices flowing. And a lot of times then you can take what it comes back and then give me more prompts, so you can say like, all right, well, what is a good way to facilitate an interactive discussion, or what are some topic points that I could use for a discussion point, kind of thing. um, or what are some good icebreakers to use in a networking event. Boom, 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 boom. And just kind of keep going. So here's some pictures of my actual event. And I've had 3 now in-person events. And I just thought it was so cool to see an idea go from just an idea to actually a whole room full of vegan professionals. And then at one moment, I'm like meeting this guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a vegan and I work for TikTok and I'm a software engineer." I was like, "Oh my god, I'm actually meeting vegan software developers, and this is so cool." And everybody was like, and then especially when I see other attendees like actually networking and have engaged in conversation, I'm like, "Wow, this is so cool." And again, because of my social anxiety and my lack of self-esteem and my difficulty with focusing, I might not have even started a meetup if I didn't even have some of this preliminary assistance here. But here's another. This is from a subsequent meetup event. I had speakers come, and it's been awesome. And then, okay, but then of course I love to provide food, and it could get expensive, like hosting these once every 4 to 6 weeks. So I go, draft me a letter to send to vegan restaurants asking for donations to serve at my in-person tech meetup. So it came up with a pretty good letter. Check it out. Then I went over to Happy Cow and just found all the vegan restaurants in the vicinity to my meetup location. And then I was able to basically just blast out an email, again, that ChatGPT mostly generated for me, and it was pretty good. It was, a little generic, but it's kind of good enough, at least just to get the ball rolling. And then check it out. I sent it out to 10 restaurants. And then boom, this amazing restaurant called Chakra is a Thai vegan Thai Indian restaurant. Boom, look, he wrote back right away. Yes, we can donate. Let me know particular dishes and I can suggest a menu for you for your thing. Look at that. Look at that. And then here's some of the food that he don't this restaurant donated hundreds of dollars of food to my event. And that's the kind of thing where I sometimes it take me so long to write an email. So imagine if I had sat down to try and write that letter, and maybe I might have gotten frustrated or given up after 20 minutes of like, okay, will you donate food to my or like, can you donate something like that? And I know a lot of people struggle with like writing or analysis paralysis. What do I even say? Kind of thing. Um, and here's just some more pictures of their amazing food. They brought in curry, rice, dumplings, spring rolls, all to my events, all from that letter. Okay, then like I said, I want to do public speaking. So what is a list of groups in New York City that host public speakers for me to contact? Again, I'm in the ideation stage. I'm in the planning, brainstorming phase. And it spitted me back a whole list of things. Um, you know, um, Different civic organizations and things like the Rotary Club, Chamber of Commerce's and such. So then I'm like, write me a letter to send to them asking if I can give a speech or presentation about the moral imperative of being vegan. And again, same thing. Maybe I wouldn't have done this on my own. And then boom, here's one person from a Rotary Club. Yes. How about May 16th for Zoom? Next thing you know, I'm giving a presentation to a whole Zoom full of kind of, I would say random, because I didn't even know these people. They weren't vegan, but they were all, but it was like and they're a Rotary Club in New York. So a lot of them seem to be like well connected. And they gave me the floor, like I was their keynote for the time, and I'm literally talking about animal rights the whole time, and that would have never happened had I not taken that little bit of initiative. So this is going to occur. Okay, and then this letter came back. We don't have any speaking opportunities. However, we're revamping our communications platform, and I'd be happy to make you an advocate for animal rights and promote your ability to speak. And this gentleman is a pretty well-known philanthropist and has like this online blog, and he invited me to be a contributor. How about that? And then next thing you know, I'm publishing articles for this like blog. And again, I still not 100% sure like the reach or whatnot, but I don't have to promote. I just had to write a thing, right? I just have to write articles for him, and I don't have to do the promotion or the search engine optimization or deal with the hosting or build out the website or anything. So, and then like I said, we know from my previous reference to that Faunalytics study that actually news articles are very, very effective form of activism. Because I know we're hard on ourselves sometimes. We feel like if we're not there doing disruptions or we're not there out on the street, we're not being effective advocates. But I would say that's definitely not true. Okay, some additional resources. I mentioned Faunalytics. I'm going to reference. They have a very well laid out responsible use policy that might be more important for actual animal rights organizations more so than just individuals, but it's a great reference, and they've actually wrote it to be used as a template. So you can actually just go and copy and paste some of their AI responsible use policies. They also offer, and I'm going to go to their website here next, so I can talk a little bit more about them. But then Veg3, which is actually a vegan ChatGPT. I'm going to go into that real quick. And then Stray Dog Institute, Faunalytics again, and Vegan for the animals, and then also AI for the animals. So let me just cover a little bit of these. Okay, so here's a screenshot of faunalytics.org. They're a really, really cool organization. And here's just a screenshot of their AI usage policy. But they also offer what they call virtual office hours. So if you go to their website, different members of their team, so some that focus on research, some that focus on media, they have every week open office hours, so you can just drop in, and they're designed specifically for activists to come there. So if you have a question about the ethical considerations of like using AI or anything about your organization, you can go and get feedback from them. So this is Veg3. This is really cool. Imagine if ChatGPT was vegan. So I encourage everybody to check out Veg3. I've played around with it because there's some limitations for the freemium, but you can, for free, just signing up with your email, you can play around with, and it's the same, it's very much similar to ChatGPT, except it's been trained on like thousands of vegan content. So everything from like research articles to, I don't know if they just gave it every Earthling Ed video and stuff like that, but it's really, really 50,000 reliable sources of information about veganism and animal rights. So definitely check it out. And again, if you're thinking about signing up for a premium, because I've never actually paid the $20 a month for ChatGPT, but I've heard it's worth it when it comes to the additional value. But you might want to consider giving your $15 a month to Veg3, because you're supporting a mission-driven advocates. And again, if you're creating stuff specifically for like marketing content or things like that specific to your brand, your vegan brand, you might want to have a more vegan leaning generative AI. So that's at veg3.ai. Okay, and then here's a couple awesome resources. So this one that I've seen is called Harnessing AI for Animal Advocacy Campaigns. And that was a vegan activist hosted one. And Robbie Lakin, who some of you might be familiar with, who started one of the co-founders of Plant-Based News. He goes really into using generative AI for images for animal rights. This is also another really good one by Stray Dog Institute called AI and Animal Advocacy, Revising Strategy and Crafting Policy. And that one goes really deep into some kind of the responsible use for AI for organizations. And I haven't seen this one, Veganism and AI, but hosted by Vegan for the Animals. But there's a couple other, I know Vegan Justice Academy has another webinar about using AI for animal rights content. So there's definitely resources out there for people that are interested. And then this organization is awesome. It's called AI for Animals. And it's literally a group of animal rights activists that are working very, very hard to make sure, because the idea is that once these large language models and this technology is unleashed, which it already is, but basically the sooner that we can get in animal and ethical considerations at the beginning of this whole thing, the easier it's going to be. It's going to be a lot harder to go back in and have to like augment or configure the stuff. So they're working very hard to get animal rights considered into the mix with AI. And there's a lot of different aspects to it. You know, things like precision livestock farming and how animal agriculture is using AI, and maybe some of this like reforms and stuff that could maybe help mitigate some suffering for animals and stuff. But there's a lot to it. And they actually just had an international conference in London, and they have events. There might be an in-person event in your city, but I definitely recommend go check them out, aiforanimals.org. So again, to conclude, just get started. Again, I think we all can relate to the idea of like we have an idea for so long and then we don't take action on it. And then just looking at some of my personal experience, like my meetup, getting the speaking engagements, getting the food donated, had I not just taken that initial initiative. And again, I do feel like ChatGPT really helps when it comes to just taking that first step. And then be creative. So the ChatGPT will not judge you on like how silly your prompt sounds or how convoluted or and it doesn't even seem to, it doesn't judge me on my spelling or grammar. Sometimes I'll just ferociously type into the keyboard a prompt, and I think it can surmise even if the spelling isn't good. And then edit and rewrite responses. Okay, so again, is that way you're not just copy and pasting, you're putting your own unique personality on that. And then how can we bring activists together for collaborative active? I feel like even the more and more prevalent technology and artificial intelligence is, the more important that humans we get together in person. So that's one thing I really liked about my tech meetup, is that I used AI to bring people together. And so I would love to do more speaking events where I'm actually physically in front of a room full of people. So if anybody has any ideas they want to throw in the chat, any questions that they have, and that's it. Please feel free. Here's some of my contact information if you want to check out my YouTube channel. If you want to check out my meetup group that I referenced, please feel free to reach out for anything at all. And then I'm gonna go ahead and that's it. So thank you all so much. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. If we have any questions, and I love hearing if there's any comments or anything that's been shared.
Thank you, Ben. That was so good. That was so good. I was taking lots of notes. So yeah, we are taking questions now. Questions or comments, or letting us know, for your activism, how you're using AI currently. There was a comment here that Red Pill Pete says he loves using it for pressure campaign kickoff letters and emails to my local reps and city council members. So, and press releases as well, he uses it for. Adam says, I have a website for debunking anti-vegan claims, and I use ChatGPT for basic proofreading and grammar checks. I should probably use it more to help me with content and ideas when I'm stuck. So good. And Romy was saying you were talking about your barriers and common barriers we all have to getting out there with our activism. And they say, overcoming my anxiety about doing outreach alone and finding people to be active with is also a challenge. So I know you relate to that as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's the idea, and that's what I'm learning. Like, for example, with the press release, the Red Pill Pete referencing that, it's like we're doing the action, so then you write a press release. Even if you get one reporter there, or you get one mention in an article, that adds up because that person wouldn't have been there, and then the whole ripple effect, and that's what the incremental change is all about. And so if it only takes 5 minutes to spit a thing into ChatGPT, and then just to a couple extra minutes to send an email blast, you could literally like BCC all your news outlets in one email. So within a few minutes, the potential to amplify the action is just like exponential. And so why are we not at least just taking those little incremental steps kind of thing?
Absolutely. Great. We would love to know more about how you're using ChatGPT and any of the resources that you have. Michelle says she learns a lot already by seeing your detailed and creative prompts. I
Awesome.
absolutely agree with that. Matt, who says they use ChatGPT for writing emails to reporters. All of that is really good. And so I think I'm a little late to the game and naive with all of this. And so, but it's not plagiarizing. That's the right. If we just take whatever ChatGPT gives us, we can literally copy and paste that, and it's original to us because we put the prompts in. Am I
Yes,
making sense?
yes. Well,
All
that's why I kind of encouraging you like edit a little bit.
right. Okay.
So at least you have a little bit, but then yes, but I feel like there's so much creativity in the prompts that is unique to you because of how you specific, and that's what I like about being specific or being creative in the prompt is like he's not going to give the same response because someone did a different prompt. But in that way, especially if you edit it a little bit.
Right. Because it's like no two people will write the exact same prompt kind of thing, right? Lightning won't strike twice. So that's why it's basically okay. But if you don't want to take any chances, you edit it a little bit. What
Exactly,
what's a little bit?
exactly.
Is it like edit 10% of it?
Yeah, I
What's
mean,
not really
I think, well, I mean, I think that's maybe again, and I'm not an expert on this, but it was the kind of thing where you want to think about context. So if you're trying to maybe for me, if I'm publishing an article on, say, the stewardship report, the one that I got invited to write on, I wouldn't want to just publish an article and say that it was me when I just literally copied and pasted it without some type of crediting or letting people know that it was ChatGPT. But if it's the kind of thing where I'm just responding to YouTube comments or something like that, where it doesn't really matter if it's just copy and paste it or that kind of thing.
okay. Good, very good. Good to know. I'm so new to all this. And so um how does and forgive me if you said this, like how does it actually work does it work live when you put the prompt in? Is it comb the internet and find the answers from there, or is it in some other database?
I believe that they've trained it on almost like the
Okay.
whole internet. So, and again, I'm not a huge expert on this, but the idea is that there might be a point where it's just, yeah. So I think they trained it on a bunch of input, and then it's getting new input, so it's constantly kind of refining itself. And at a certain point it might become kind of like inbred where it's just referencing its own responses, kind of thing. But at least you, like I said, you can just kind of get started and see what comes back. And then
Mhm.
especially if we're trying to get a feel for how a non-vegan might respond to some content, you can ask it to play to a different perspective, a different POV, or a different point of view, and see and then you can kind of trial and error where how your content might land, kind of thing.
Okay, got it. This is great. Question here is, so if you edit a bit, then you don't have to give credit to Chat GPT publicly. Is that correct?
I'm not exactly sure when it comes to like and again, I think that would be context. So I don't know how much of that is just personal integrity, that if you want to say written with assisted with AI.
Okay.
So I don't want to misinform anybody about any type of like legalese or anything like that. But I do think that as long as you edit it a little bit, that yeah, then it's like it's original. And that's why I really like to use it just to get ideas, and then sometimes kind of take a paragraph here, take a paragraph here, or I like, oh, I like kind of where they're going with that, but I think I could reword it better, but I wouldn't have initially thought of rewording it like that if it didn't even kind of come back like that.
Mm.
So sometimes I can even write my own thing better than it did, but I wouldn't even know it would. I wouldn't have even thought of it to write that thing had it not come back with that.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, for inspiration.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so another question is, can ChatGPT give answers in different tones of voice?
Yes, and again, I'm just on the very this is just a very basic webinar, and I'm just on the basic, but there's different ways that you can give it a voice, and that's one thing. Like in one of my slides, when I say respond as an unapologetic animal liberation activist, and so you definitely can play around with being very specific in your prompts.
Respond as dot dot dot.
Yeah, and
Ah,
like I said, play. Yeah, exactly. Play.
that is a great prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I love that. Oh my God, it's way too intelligent. That's the scary part.
Mm-hmm.
It's so more intelligent than we are. It's and
It is, and then I think I was
teaching
like you,
itself
Michelle,
to
where
take over the world.
I didn't want to get started with it because I was kind of like, oh, it kind of was overwhelming. So you're just kind of like, kind of the analysis paralysis, like, I don't even want to deal with it kind of thing. But like I said, I think we owe it to the animals to be as effective and prolific as we possibly can. And then maybe if it can empower us a little bit to just, even at the most basic look, because I think the chat GPT is one of the most basic forms of AI that we can
Yeah.
interact with without having to like really understand how the technology works or under the hood kind of thing. But
Mm,
but but I think we owe it to ourselves to at least kind of what I mean, empower ourselves a little bit just to try and
right.
play around with it at least.
Yeah, it's a tool. Everybody's using it. So let's see. So we have here, is it possible to outreach to Chat GPT so that when it responds to non-vegans, the program has animal ethics in mind? Will what we teach or ask of AI affect its responses to other people?
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So that was one thing. So when I mentioned Veg 3, which was the vegan Chat GPT, the gentleman Sam Tucker. He's a vegan computer scientist and working on, it's called openpause.ai, and I can add we can add this to the chat later, or the description later, as a reference for people that watch this later. But so the imagine if a chatbot was having outreach conversations. It could be having a billion at a time, or an infinite number of, and it could be responding to each individual in the most precise, effective way possible. Meeting, well, of course, we know that there's only like a dozen or fewer like actual kind of archetypes of like non-vegans when it comes back with like the type of response or their objections and stuff like that. But if it could be having those personable outreach conversations, handling objections specific to that person, and then it would just get better and better and better and better, and then it could be outreaching nonstop to like millions and millions of people at the same time. So that's kind of one cool thought about like how AI could ultimately be a vegan AI could be
Mm,
working for us.
great use. Absolutely. For the animals. And Matt, who agrees, he says, you are right, Benjamin. We owe it to the animals to speak in the most effective way. Right. The most expeditious way, cast the widest net that we
Mm-hmm.
possibly can, and no pun intended, the internet
Mm-hmm.
is
Exactly.
the widest net. Do we have some
Exactly.
more questions, or even if you guys want to throw some prompts that you're toying with or playing within your mind, and maybe Ben can help you refine and improve and tweak those prompts. Feel free, or feel free to put examples in the chat of prompts that worked really well for you.
Yes.
Right, and while we're waiting for that, I noticed that Facebook has its own version now of AI, right? When you write a post, it gives you options to use AI to rewrite the post for you, right?
Okay. I imagine so because I've seen that on LinkedIn. I've seen that on a lot of different platforms. Yeah.
Okay, if it's not in every platform, I'd be surprised. Once one
Right.
starts using them, then the others all do.
Right.
Um, Question here, does these AI tools also provide images, videos, by our prompts, or is it only text? Good
There,
question.
there is. So I'm less familiar with some of those, but if you watch the one, the Robbie Lockey video, AI generative, the vegan hacktivist, and Robbie Lockey, he goes into that. But and I don't have the names off the top of my head, but there's a lot where it's called text to image, where you can just, give me a picture of an animal being exploited, and someone rescuing an animal or whatnot, and then again you can generate. So that's another way that we can just proliferate images and just get that out there, because and again, you put out the image and you have a link to Dominion or a link to AAM or a link to Earthlings, and it's like it's a numbers game, really, and it's incremental change. And so really just, I mean, obviously the animals are it's so atrocious that any little thing we could do, plus the ripple effect, plus you never know who's going to be the next like Earthling Ed or superstar vegan that's going to like see your post, and then they're going to go create a whole bunch of change. So it's just we really never know, even like these small incremental steps of like just proliferating a little bit of content. And so, and AAM helped me so much, and like these workshops helped me so much when it comes to like starting my YouTube channel. It's like, all right, you really have no excuse to just
Mhm.
start a YouTube channel. And it's like, okay, yes, social media, I think we all have that like love hate relationship with social media, but it's just like we owe it to the animals to just like post or just proliferate, and then go from there. Because it's not like, oh, sometimes I was like, oh, if I'm gonna have to learn like all these strategies, and I'm gonna have to learn all these like effective ways to like grow my following, but it's like everybody starts with 0 followers and 0 subscribers, and you just like incrementally go from there, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a big circle. So putting it out there and it comes back and teaching the internet. So, in the meetup example, could AI have been used to find the restaurants and put together that list?
That's a good idea. I didn't think about that just because I know I had Happy Cow, and I know with Happy Cow I can search just on proximity, like on zip code, and get like all the vegan restaurants right there. But I did use it in my other example where I said, give me a list of places to contact in New York City, and it gave me like a list of so many different ones.
Hmm.
Like there was like civic groups and political groups, and like I said, the Rotary Club, like there's different like community organizations and stuff. So I think I've struggled sometimes like trying to get real-time information, like trying to use it as like a yellow pages, like give me the exact email address of every single, and then there's other AI tools for that, of course, but then all I had to do was just type in the play like, oh, Chamber of Commerce, or like all the Rotary clubs in New York, and then just kind of copy and paste the emails and stuff like that into, and then I easily had, dozens of places to contact.
Wow, when you say it like that, it just really, you're right, makes things go much quicker. It makes our life easier, potentially, if we learn how to use it as a tool correctly.
Exactly.
So it can put together phone numbers and email addresses and lists.
And then just, yeah, and then write me the letter, and then the next thing you know, you just send out 100 emails asking if you could come speak at their school or community
Hmm.
organization. And then you write the present, and then it helps you write the presentation, or um and then boom, and the next thing you know, you're like in front of a whole group of people talking about animal rights.
I love that those were such great examples of how you got public speaking gigs and your networking group, how it all came together, and you can trace it back to AI. Of course, you had to, implement it, but so good. Yeah. So other questions from folks? Any mediocre experiences with AI that so far nobody's had any sort of kinds of experiences, but we'd like to hear from folks what experiences you have had, how you're using it, or certainly questions that you might have, or prompts that you have worked really well for you with nice evocative adjectives, which seem to work really well, right? To use the most emotionally laden, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
words and adjectives. That way it's real specific, right? And really
Yes.
to what you want tends to get the best results. Yeah. But it'll never come up like I don't know. That will never be a response, right? From ChatGPT. Like any question we ask, there will be a reply.
I have, yeah, and I haven't gotten that one yet.
Right. it combed the internet and came up with zip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Zero. Okay, I'm looking to see if there's any more questions. Anything else, Ben, that you want to add about that? I mean, I know you really shared quite a bit.
No, just
And
just so grateful to animal activism mentorship, and so grateful to know other activists and be inspired. And we're all fighting together, and all the other activists that encourage me not to give up hope for a vegan world, and just know that even if we don't have a vegan world, we can still make a difference for one animal or for
mm,
one person. Because being vegan is the best thing that ever happened to me. So even if we can help one or a couple, like if every vegan just turned 3 people vegan per year, then we could have a vegan world in like 10 years or something like that. And so just not giving up, incremental change. And I really appreciate all the commodity and all the everything so great about animal activism mentorship.
oh, thanks. We appreciate that shout out and we appreciate you for being a mentor and helping the mentees and for doing this presentation and this program tonight because we're reminded that we can be introverts, we can be a little shy and you know that we can write content and do this at home and still make a huge impact for the animals.
Yes.
And Testify Redeem kind of echoed what you were saying. I'm afraid to ask ChatGPT when will we have a vegan world?
Mm-hmm.
I would love, if anybody has ChatGPT open right
Pull
now,
it up.
put that in. We'd like to know what is said. We can handle it. Matt who says, I use the prompts asking, write the above content in different words. That's a great prompt, and it comes back with a great response.
Awesome.
I'm sure we can even ask for a list of great prompts. Tell me
Yes,
some really
exactly. Thank now you're
now
that's
we're thinking
exactly.
outside the box. That's right. It's crazy. I like the idea you said just playing around with it. Just like we could ask, what should I do today? What would be the most productive thing I could do today, ChatGPT, and then just go from there and then keep it and go deeper and deeper
Mm-hmm.
into the
Mm-hmm.
into the line of questioning. Like Ben said, even if we can't achieve a vegan world, we can help as many as we can. That's awesome. All right, let's see if we have any other questions. I don't know. If we do, give them a minute. If not, that's okay too. Certainly. Lots of love in the chat though. Lots of good stuff, and we like that. Yeah, and you know what? Also, we're taking any suggestions for future live streams and workshops and trainings. Any suggestions that you have, we will welcome those as well. Any other questions? Any other questions? Any other good prompts? Maybe not. Nah. Okay. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write a response to a newspaper article related to animals.
Yes.
That's really good too. Write me a response to this article. Write me a response to this post, like you said. Write me a response to this documentary.
That's great because if one of us just gets an op-ed published in or a letter to the editor published in the New York Times or Washington Post, I mean, imagine how many eyeballs are on that.
While these trends suggest a growing movement towards veganism, it's unlikely the entire world will become vegan in the near future. That's what I was like, is that what you're saying? I'm like, that's true, but that's what ChatGPT said. That was the answer to that. When will there be a vegan world? ChatGPT is non-vegan, yes. And CDA activism is asking again, what's your YouTube channel handle? It's Basil B Vegan.
Yes.
Basil B Vegan. So go over there and like and subscribe as soon as we're done here. And of course, while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. ChatGPT said thank you. Anybody get anything different when you put that into ChatGPT? It's unlikely. That was too easy an answer. Like, yes, a kindergartner could have told us that. No. All right. Well, if you have any other suggestions or questions, I guess we could wrap up. Any final words? Final words, Ben, or you're good?
I'm good.
Yeah. Can AM do a presentation on how to rally people hyper locally? I think my city is small enough to be responsive to some plant-based movement. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And check out all of our previous programs and live streams right here on our YouTube channel as well. Very nice. All right. So yeah, to wrap up then, please consider becoming a patron by finding AAM on Patreon. Your donations allow AAM to continue to provide free educational resources for activists, which ultimately saves more animals. That wraps up another AAM program. Thank you, Ben, so much for all the amazing information and tips. Thanks, Trey, behind the scenes, handling tech and social media. Thank you all for being here and the tireless work you're doing for the animals. If you're interested in becoming a mentor or mentee or want to get involved, please reach out to us. Until next time, stay strong, everyone, and live vegan and get active for the animals. Thank you, everyone.